All right, good morning. How are you all doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Afriforex daily analysis. This beautiful 15th day of October. Good to see lots of people here. Also, more and more people streaming in. Karibuni sana. Hope you're all well. Hope you had a good time on the charts yesterday and in everything else that you're doing. But we're glad that you could join us. Karibuni sana. For the sake of guys who are joining us here for the first time, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, like we always say, so it's not a one-man show. So we do have Mitch. He is here. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will definitely be getting back to you. So we're going to jump straight into it, and we'll start off by looking at the watch list, of course. That's where we always start. So you can see right there, the 15th of October. You can see the watch list is exactly copy-paste from yesterday. The only thing that's changed is the date. So there are a couple of fundamentals that did come out. In fact, the reason why this webinar is also a bit late in terms of starting is because there are some GBP fundamentals that have just come out right now. So we did need to factor that into our analysis. So at least that's already factored. Yesterday, it was a bit of a quiet day. It didn't mean that the charts didn't move. Of course, we'll definitely be looking at the charts to see what happened. But clearly, you can see that's the reason why nothing much has changed on the fundamental front. But looking forward into today, since we're already here on the economic calendar, you can see that there will be quite a number of news events that will be coming out. The one that I can best highlight is this CPIs for the Canadian dollar. So just make sure you really watch out for 3:30. Could find some very good moves happening on the Canadian dollar pairs. So just make sure that you also watch out for your risk, but at least we should be getting some moves happening at around that time. So since the watch list is the same, we'll start off by looking at a couple of screenshots that we did end up getting. So we'll start off with this one from Alvin. Alvin, shout out to you. So this is on the euro against the US dollar. So I can see you got a really good sell, which, like the emoji right there, you're also quite shocked about it. So this was really good in terms of where you got the entry. This was extremely well done, extremely professional. So I can see you got the sell there. Market moved in your favor. I can see the stop loss is right there. But of course, even based on the fact that price is all the way down here, your stop loss could even technically be somewhere within this region right here. Just to make sure that you've secured a bit more in case the market does actually end up turning against you. But this is really good. So shout out to you for that, Alvin. Good to see you killing it on the charts. And you also got the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see you got a really good sell of this one as well. Somewhere within a seller's region. At least this one you can see there was some sort of a slowdown of the bars within this area right here. Definitely a region where we do have the sellers. Got the sell within that region, stop loss below your point of entry, which is good. But also for this one, at least based on the fact that price is all the way down here, your stop loss could technically be a bit much lower. So shout out to you for this one as well. Not bad in terms of entry, and also at least good to see that you do have your stop loss management in place. I know a couple of weeks back when you're looking at your screenshots, we were really struggling with the fact that you didn't have some stop losses on your trades, but it's good to see that you've incorporated that into your trading. So shout out to you for that. So we also did get a screenshot from Christine Washera. If you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is on gold. So I can see you got some two selling opportunities, one within this region and the other one just slightly lower than the first one, but more or less within a good area. Definitely seems like there were a bunch of sellers there. The market did break to the downside. Definitely some sort of a scenario within that region. And I can't see that as the market was coming down. Can see that you have some support within this region, maybe an area where you are targeting. But it's good to see that your stop losses, hopefully for both trades, somewhere within that region there below your point of entry. So this is good. So shout out to you for that, Christine Washera, and of course, keep up the good work. So we also did get a screenshot from George Shege. We always do see your screenshots here from time to time. So this is on the euro against the US dollar. So I can see you got a sell on this one. Very good sell. Can't see the market had calmed down, pulled back in within this region, some sort of retest within that area. And if you got the sell within there, then this was really good. And I can't see that as the market was coming down, you did manage some of your trade within there, stop loss below your point of entry. And I can't see that you're targeting down within this region right here. So Not a bad trade. In terms of where you got the trade, that was really, really well done. So shout out to you for that, George, and of course, keep up the good work. So last but not least, we did get a screenshot from Peter. So shout out to you, Peter, for this one. This is on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So I can't see you got a buy on this one. Somewhere within this region right here, stop loss, somewhere within this region. But of course, I can't see that. I think you're targeting somewhere within here. I think your take profit was high up there. Of course, once the market started to move in your favor, at least you should have brought in your stop loss, maybe above break even or somewhere within this region right here. But not bad. But it does seem like you did need to be a bit patient before the market took off because you got the buy there. But at least maybe based on the fact that you got the trade within a buyer's region, at least the buyers did actually end up helping you, and at least they did save you and the market did move to the upside. So this is not bad. Of course, it's just tweaking your stop loss and making sure that the next time, when the market starts to move in your favor, at least your stop loss goes up higher. But that's really good. So shout out to Peter, Alvin, Christine, George for your screenshots. And of course, keep up the good work. Remember, guys, if you do want to send in any screenshots, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. We will be more than happy to give you the much needed advice and also to give you the much needed shout out for your trades. We're not going to be asking for any money. So even if you make as much as possible and you send in a screenshot, we're definitely not going to be asking you for any money. But at least we're happy to celebrate your wins with you. So feel free to send them in to us. And of course, if you do have any issues in terms of your trading, also feel free to hit us up. Through the same contact details, we'll see how best we can end up helping you. So you can find them on the chat box. For the guys watching us on YouTube, you can find the contact details on the video description. There should be a link that has all our links, or you can visit our website, www.afriforex.com, and you definitely can find that information. So we're going to shift gears into matters today. So you can see right there, the 15th of October. You can see the watch list. For the guys who've come in late, it's not a mistake. The watch list is exactly the same as yesterday. So we will be starting off with the yen pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side, move on to the Australian dollar pairs, the Great British Pound, and then we'll finish off with the indices and the commodities like we always do. So the first one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when you're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area right here. And I had pointed out that if the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then it meant, would have meant rather, that this kind of pair was off our watch list. And you clearly can see that the market broke and held above this area. So that meant that there was no trade for us. So for today, the levels are the same as exactly what we're watching out for yesterday. Just a slight adjustment on the region at the top, and I will show you in a bit why that's the case, but feel free to take note of these three regions right here. So for this one, we will be waiting to see whether we can get the market coming back to the downside of this area. If we can get the market coming back to the downside, then at least at that point in time, we will be looking for the sells. The reason why we've not adjusted the areas and taken this one up a bit higher like we normally do is because if you look at the story of what's happening on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that somewhere within this region right here, this is where the sellers should be activating, considering the fact that the market has actually broken to the upside of this area. If you end up looking for selling opportunities when the market is holding above this major SNR right here, there could be risk because the market could easily bounce off this region to the upside. And you can see that there's quite a lot of room for the market to move to the upside. So as to mitigate your risk, the best way to go about it is to actually wait. If the market can come to the downside of this major SNR within this region right here, at least we know that these sellers who are sitting within this region could possibly end up taking control, and you could actually find that the market could actually end up coming to the downside. But any sells above this region here maybe could be some sort of a retest. You can clearly see that on the 15-minute time frame, the market broke to the upside. So you could easily end up getting caught up in some sort of a situation within here. So it's safer to actually wait and see if we can get the market breaking to the downside of this region. So for this one, currently it's off our watch list. It doesn't mean that it's going to be off our watch list the whole day, because like I'm pointing out, when the market breaks to the downside and hopefully these buyers get challenged, and we see an attempt, maybe even of the market to attempt to break to the upside, which ends up being unsuccessful, at that point in time, you could find that the selling opportunities could actually end up taking place. So for this one, just watch out for that. But of course, there's also something to do with the USDs. Yesterday, they were showing some strength. It's not what we really expected to see. So maybe that could be the issue with that one, because when you end up looking at the rest of the yen pairs, they seem like, they're coming down, that strength is showing. But when it comes to the USD, you can see that that one is actually going to the upside. So that tells you that it's definitely something to do with the USD. So for this one, the next one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're watching out for sales. So you clearly can't see the three areas that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. So I was expecting, hopefully, the market was going to come back in within this region. Unfortunately, my expectations were not met. And you can see that the price came down. And you can see that it just held within this region. So during the London session, US session, it just held within here. And during the Asian session, you can see that the market has continued to move to the downside. So for this one, let's see if we'll get some proper sales, but the levels are the same. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get a pullback. Remember, pullbacks are very important. You should not really be looking for trades without pullbacks. It's like when you go to a shop, you're always wanting to get the best prices you can get. You're always looking for those discounts. So it's the same thing when it comes to trading. All the people who are hitting sales within this region here, this is not a good area. You're better off either waiting for the market to break beneath this region to the downside and wait for the pullback to look for your sales. Alternatively, what could happen is that the market could possibly also come back in within this region. And at least if it does, then at least based on what we're looking at right now, the best selling opportunities are definitely somewhere within this region here. So let's see whether we can get that happening. You definitely can't see that there's a buyer's region here. So we'll just give those buyers the benefit of doubt. Hopefully they can actually push the market to the upside. Maybe during the London session, during the US session, hopefully we could find the market at least somewhere within this region. Then at least we could try and see whether we could get some sales. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the red SNR at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but there's no price that's too far when it comes to the FX market. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sales, and you can't see the three areas right here that I had pointed out, which are more or less the same areas that we're going to be watching out for. So you can't see in the morning, price was somewhere within this region here. And I had pointed out that hopefully, if especially based on how this buyer had come up, remember I pointed out there's a possibility the market holds to the upside of this region. Then that means that these buyers, especially based on how they'd come up within this area right here, and also the previous time, they were quite adamant. And you can see that the market technically held above this area and pushed itself to the upside. And you can see that the turnaround took a bit of time. Fortunately, it's not something we would have gotten yesterday, because you can see that it was towards the later part of yesterday, moving into the early session of today. So you can't say it could have been a bit hard, but at least we did expect the turnaround to happen within this region here. So for this one, let's see if we can actually get the market attempting to break to the upside of this area. If it actually does, and the market and the sellers do actually push the market to the downside, and the market holds to the downside of this area, then at least that would be good. We could look for the sales, because right now we're just challenging, or the sellers are challenging this region here. And you can see that's the area where the market did actually turn around off from in the previous pullback. So right now, based on this pullback coming in, we don't know whether these buyers are going to give issues. So you're better off waiting. Let's see what happens within here. But of course, I mean, some of you are real cowboys on the charts. If I do point out this region right here, if let's say we don't get the market coming back in within this area, you could technically wait for the market to break beneath this region to the downside. If we do get that, then at least on the pullback, at least you should be good to go. At least this sell coming down, I think that one will possibly give you less a headache than actually getting the trade within here. Because you could easily find that you could be taken for a ride within this region right here. But at least even if you get the sell here, personally, what I normally do is if I get the sell here and I can't get the market blasting through the next SNR, especially when it's this close and the market starts to hold within here, then at that point in time, I can actually end up managing a good amount of the trade. When the market breaks to the downside, I could jump back in on the trade somewhere within here. So it's exactly what I've illustrated here, but just making sure that you play around with your money management. Because, one thing I always say is that the biggest difference between amateur traders and professional traders is not really the trading strategies, because you find that the strategies are more or less the same. Of course, the professional traders are more disciplined. They do actually end up following their strategies to the T. But the biggest difference is when it comes to money management. Professional traders are very good in terms of managing their risk. The moment they see things not working in their favor, they are very quick at cutting their losses. Amateur traders keep on holding to hope, and you're hoping that the market will actually move. Yet, all the facts that are presented before you are telling you that something is definitely not going right. So at least if you're very good at managing your risk, then you'll definitely find that your trading will definitely end up taking a different trajectory. So just make sure that you factor that in, even as you watch out for opportunities. So the next one, this is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. And I pointed out that we did want to see the market, hopefully, because it did seem like the buyers were quite adamant. Maybe if they did attempt to break to the upside, in case the market came to the downside, we could have looked for the sells. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you can see that the market broke and held above this region to the upside. It's only today, during the Asian session, that the market is actually coming down and, of course, moving into the Frankfurt session. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So let's see what happens. Right now, of course, considering the market is here, don't really chase. You could easily find that the market could easily probe within this region right here, and you could find the market backing within this area right here, because you can't see that there's an SNR within this region here. So just make sure you don't really end up getting caught in that. You could find that the market could do something like that. It's very possible. But of course, what we want to see right now is hopefully the market can come back in within this region here. Maybe if it does actually hold to the downside, after you visually see some attempts of the buyers to break to the upside and actually hold, become unsuccessful. And that's what I'm saying. You should actually be trading what you see. Then at least at that point in time, you can actually end up jumping in on some sells to calm down on this move coming down. But right now, let's give the buyers within this region the benefit of doubt. And also just wait and see if we can actually get a breach of that region. So also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but it's possible price can also come back in within that region. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday we're watching out for sells. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. So at around 910, not really within a good region. But remember, I had pointed out that there was a possibility price wasn't going to come back in all the way to that region at the top. Then there was also this area. And you can see that the market came in within this area. This was during the US session yesterday. So the market came in, held within that region, broke to the downside. And once it broke to the downside, could have been a good sell within here. But if you look at the time, that was at around 5. I don't think most of us were on the charts at that time. So missed out on a good sell within there, but it's okay. We don't chase. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. Hopefully, we can get the market breaking to the downside and let it go. Don't really feel FOMO in terms of this current move that's happening right now. Just give the market adequate time. You could easily find that the market could easily bounce off these regions here. At least if those buyers can at least push the market back within here, you still could get the selling opportunity off this region right here to come down. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Be a bit patient. Let's see what happens. And of course, we still do have this region at the top. A bit of long shot, but you still can't find the market coming back in, hopefully within that region. So you can clear this region, because ideally the market does come back in within this area. It means that it will be looking for a much better price than where it did turn off. And you can see that it turned off here. So I guess if it comes back to the upside, that could put price squarely back in within this area right here. So let's see what happens on this one. And of course, remembering the red SNR at the top, in case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So that's pretty much it in terms of the yen pairs. So we've mixed and matched them up with everything on the sell side. So right now we're going to move on to the AUD pairs. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So you can clearly see the three areas that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. Remember this one, I did point out that we did need to see the market break and hold above here to the upside before we could activate any buys. And you clearly can't see that within this region, we just couldn't get a hold or even a break to the upside of this area. So the market tapped there. Can't see that during the London session, the London big boys did actually react. The market came back in within here. So at around 3, unfortunately, there was nothing. The market did some sort of a probe within this, and you can't see that at 4:30, that's when the buyers seemed like they did actually end up coming in. And then after that, you can see that the pullback did come in and the market did become quite choppy within this region right here. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same, but it could definitely be something to do with the USDs, because remember, like even on USD, you did see that it's the USD is giving issues. So even for this one, it's more or less the same. So we'll have to wait and see. We can't get the market coming to the upside of this region right here, then at least we could possibly end up looking for the buying opportunities. You could even try target all the way up there, but you just need to make sure that you manage your trade, within this region here or somewhere within this area, we do end up getting issues. So let's see what happens. But right now, considering the fact that the market is holding to the downside, there's nothing we can do about it. But it's not bad. It's good because, if the market does come back in, a lot of guys are definitely going to be incited, to start chasing sales within this region here. And if the market does come back into the upside, it's done that before, as soon as yesterday, it had come down all the way to within here. And the buyers are still able to push it to the upside. So all hope is not lost on this one. So let's see what happens. But of course, for as long as the market is holding beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately, there is no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can't see the three areas that I had pointed out right there. And in the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. So remember, this one I did point out was quite good, considering the fact that the market had come in, had broken to the upside, and it was already holding to the upside of this area. Then I pointed out that, of course, you could have looked for the trade within here, and you did possibly need to put your stop loss here. But if you could read the story of what was happening, within this region, especially on a smaller time frame, then you could have gotten the stop loss much, much tighter on this trade. So this one did actually end up working out quite well. I also did end up managing to get this trade right here. So you can see it's exact same trade, buys within this region here, coming up till within that region there. But you can see that during or just before the US session, that's when the market really started to move to the upside. But you can see that also within this region right here, when the market broke to the upside, came back in within that region, could have been some other buys within here at around 4:30. And you can see that the market did completely go to the upside, actually end up hitting, take profit on this particular trade. So this one was a good one, but the levels are more or less the same. In as much as the buyers came up quite aggressive, unfortunately, we just couldn't get past this region to the upside. And you can see that the sellers have really contained the buyers. So for this one, we will be watching out to see what happens within the same areas that we're watching out for. Pullback is coming in right now, though the sellers are coming in a bit aggressive, but it's okay. At least if they do end up running out of steam, within this region here, then at least this should be good. So what we would be expecting is maybe the market tapping within that area may need to reset itself before the buyers do actually kick in, and we'll be trying to see whether we can actually end up going higher than this. But for that, there's a possibility the market might need to spike lower than these regions right here. But regardless, for as long as we get the market breaking to the downside and coming back in and holding within here, then at that point in time, that's when we'll definitely look for the buys. So let's see what happens on this one. Also remember the red SNR at the bottom. If the price comes back in within that region, then we definitely can try and see whether we can get the buys there. If it breaks below, then unfortunately, there is no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, these are the three areas we're watching out for. And you can see the aggressive conservative, semi-aggressive conservative here. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. And I had pointed out that this one was also looking like it was holding, but we did need to see a bit more on the smaller time frame before jumping in on this trade. And thank God I didn't jump in on this one because the sellers were quite adamant on this one right here. And you can see that off this region, especially when the market broke aside to go to the downside of this area, you can see that, I mean, even if you are jumped in on the trade, that was a good time to actually scratch. Remember what I pointed out about amateur and professional traders. Professionals are very good at cutting their losses. So you can see this on the moment the market held to the downside of this region, it was a good time to actually scratch the trade if you're in on it. And you clearly can see that the market came all the way down to within here. Then at around 4:30, that's when the market did actually end up turning off this region. It's definitely a region where we do have some buyers within there. So it's not surprising to see that the market did actually react off that region. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. The game plan is more or less the same. You can see where price is right now. We've definitely set an alert somewhere within this region because we're expecting to see what happens. Based on how the sellers are coming in, there's a possibility they will be tapping in within this region. If that happens, I think we could find some good buying opportunities happening off this region right here to move to the upside. So also remember we have the CPIs for the Canadian dollar. So definitely you could find maybe at around 3:30, especially if the market does set itself up very well during the London session. We could find hopefully some good buying opportunities happening off this region right here. So let's see what happens. But this one, the game plan is more or less the same as I think on the US dollar, the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So it's more or less the same. Let's see how close we can get within this region right here. So remember the red SNR, just the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells, and you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Price was here. I did point out it wasn't a good time to look for the sells within there, and you clearly can't see why. Or within a buyer's region, the buyers did react. The market came higher within this area here, and they did break to the upside, push to the downside, but unfortunately we couldn't get a proper retest within this area. So we're expecting, hopefully that might actually end up happening today. So you can't see that prices come in so close within that area there. Let's see if we can get possibly the buyers of this area here, maybe pushing the market to the upside because there's a level here. If you can get that level possibly reacting and we get the market coming back in within this area, I think some proper selling opportunities could definitely be hiding somewhere within this region right here. And you definitely can't see that the sellers have reacted off there before. A number of times the market went to the upside, came in, but at least if we can get that retest coming in, that would be good. But also watch out for the region at the top. In case we get the market coming in there, definitely also a region where we can look for the sells. I mean, if the sellers do need that much better price, then at least we will be ready for that as well. So hopefully you've taken note of that. So let's see what happens on that one. So last but not least, we do have the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities, and you can't see the three regions that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. I did point out that there was a possibility we were going to get some sort of a spike happening within this region here, but at least we did want to see the market, even if it was going to spike, whether we're going to get the market coming to the upside. So you can see that it did hold, the spike did happen, but when the market came in, it just couldn't hold above this region for us to look for the buys. And you clearly can see that the market just came to the downside, attempted to come back in within that region. But the sellers are quite strong. Even looking at this last push coming down, it seems that they're quite stubborn. So what it could mean is that maybe we could find the market coming back in, maybe somewhere as close as possible within here. And that's the reason why we still do have that area at the bottom right there. So you could find the market could possibly come back in, tap within this region, and maybe that's when you find the buyers possibly now coming in full throttle. So that is one option. The other option could be, of course, waiting to see if we can get this market possibly breaking above this region to the upside and actually holding. Maybe even some attempts to break to the downside, but visually you can't see that the market is holding above this region to the upside, because you can't see that since the market broke to the downside, it's just been probing within this area. It came in, couldn't hold. Once again, it came in within that area, just couldn't hold. But at least if we can get some sort of a hold within this area, I think at that point in time, we can actually end up planning or gearing up to possibly jump in on some buys. So let's see what happens. So that's one option. Of course, the other option that I pointed out is if these sellers keep on giving issues, and I mean, it's a matter of correlation. we could find that the market could be coming back in all the way till within this area. But remembering that that's the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the AUDs. So hopefully you have taken note of that. So right now we're going to move on to the next set of currency pairs, which are the GBPs. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you clearly can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. In the morning, price was here. I did point out it wasn't a good time to look for the buys. You're better off waiting for the buy somewhere within this area here, or if the market at least came back in within this region right here. But here in the middle, not really the best, because there was some sort of an SNR. And you clearly can see that the market did react to the downside. So when the market came back in within this region here, you can see this was during the US session. Price came down, came to the upside, actually held. I mean, if you did attempt to buy within here, not bad, but you really can't see that the buyers really struggled to push to the upside. And once again, the market just came back in, within this region right here, and you can see that the sellers have given issues. So that means that if you do get buys within this area here, in as much as you should be watching out for this region, just make sure that you watch out for the blue SNR as well. You could easily end up getting sent back to square one very fast. And you can see that the buyers did actually come up, sellers have pushed the market down. But hopefully, based on the news events that have come in for the GBP, remember they've just come in a couple of minutes ago. Most of them are actually showing that we should be expecting strength coming in for the GBP. So let's see if during the London session, if we'll actually end up getting the big boys coming in. But so far, this is now starting to look good. So what you should be waiting for is, you can already see that there is possibly a sign of a big buyer who's showing up within there. But we're back within this sort of a scenario within here. You don't really want to be hitting your buys within there. So what you want is to see what happens on the next struggle of the seller. Remember that you just can't rule out the fact that the sellers were in. The sellers came down like this. This is the first retaliation of the buyer. So you're not sure whether these sellers are quite out until you see the next push of them maybe trying to come back in within this region. And at least if you look for the buys after that, I think possibly that buy could actually be a winner. So just make sure that you watch out for that. You could target all the way high up within that region, but there are definitely a number of areas where you should be managing your trades. And of course, if you're really good at trading, also regions where you can possibly also end up scaling in. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we were watching out for buys. Clearly, you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. I did want to see the market possibly pull back in within here to possibly look for the buys. Unfortunately, that did not quite happen. So you can see that the market within here just technically broke one red candle, and after that, the market went to the upside. But you can see that during the US session, when the market broke above this area to the upside on the pullback, definitely if you read that on a smaller time frame, could have been a buy, to continue moving up higher. So for this one for today, let's see if we can end up getting some more buying opportunities or clearer opportunities. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of that. Right now, there's some sort of a reaction happening off that area. The sellers are pushing the market to the downside, which is good. Hopefully, we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. And at least if we end up getting that, I think some proper buying opportunities could definitely be somewhere within this area right here. Right, there's a minus SNR within this area here. The only problem is, getting some proper risk to reward off this trade just coming up. We're only looking at about 14 pips. Now, for 14 pips, for you to get a proper risk to reward on that trade means that you should be having a stop loss of maybe about 7 pips max, at least just to get, a 1:2 or anything less. So at least you can get something more than a 1:2. So it ends up being a bit hard. So you're better off possibly waiting to see whether you can get this trade within this region here. Or if the market actually breaks to the upside of this area here, then at least at that point in time, you could technically look for those buys within that area. This one is going to be a bit tricky. And I don't know if the broker is actually going to allow you to put stop loss of anything like 5 or 3 pips, especially on a CHF pair. It will be a bit tricky. So you're better off waiting for price either at the top, or at least if the pullback does end up coming back in within that semi-aggressive, semi-conservative region. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. Clearly can't see the three regions that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. In the morning, price was here. So it was either the market to break to the upside, then we look for the buys. If not, then the best area to look for the buys was back in within this region right here. And if you look at the times, so from around 4:30, you can see that the market was actually back in within this buyer's region right here. And you can see that from there, the market did actually end up taking off to the upside. So this one was also a good opportunity. Fortunately, I missed out on it, but you can see that at least during the US session, the market went up all the way coming back, even reaching this region to the upside. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. So right now we have some sort of a pullback coming in, which is good, but we definitely need to read and see more of the story. You know, within this area right here, the sellers have come down. First retaliation of the buyers is right here. Let's see what happens on the second one. So don't be too quick also to jump in on buying opportunities on this one. I've been stopped out very many times in such kind of things. You know, when I give guys advice, it's not based on things that I went to school to read. It's purely based on things that we've experienced. So you see, like right now, when the market does this, if you hit the buy here, you overlook the fact that there's a minus NR within this region right here. And when you hit that buy, the next reaction of the seller, because you can still see that the seller is quite adamant. I mean, based on how they came in the first time, you can't just overrule the fact that they'll just disappear. There's a possibility price could still come back in within here. So the way I've been stopped out before I learned how to do these things is, you know, you take the trade there, you put your stop loss here, the market comes in, hits your stop loss, you're taken out, and then you forget about that trade only to find out that the market ended up going to the upside after that. So, of course, you end up blaming the broker and all other things except yourself, but it's your timing that's off. You enter too early, you get stopped out in as much as your direction is correct. And also, if you enter too late, the risk to reward will also end up not being worth it if you're waiting for too much confirmation per se. So getting your timing right can be hard, but at least that's the reason why we're here. So if you do need assistance, then feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you. So the next one, this is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. And you can clearly see the three areas that I had pointed out right there. So in the morning, price was here. And I did point out it wasn't a good time to look for the sells. Either wait for the breach to the downside or the market to come back in within this region. Unfortunately, the market just came shy of that area, but we did have the anticipation that price would come back in at least somewhere within this region. You can see that the buyers came in during the London session, during the US session. You can see that from around 4:30, the big boys came in and actually literally pushed the market to the downside. And you can see that it's still more or less coming down. At least it's found some sort of a base somewhere within this region right here. So hopefully we should expect, and we'll be keeping our fingers crossed, if we can get the market coming back in within this area here, I think we can get some proper sells. There could be some within here, but unfortunately, this being the euro against the Great British Pound, this is not really worth it. If you end up looking at those pips, it's only 7-8 pips. It might not really be worth it. You will not get a proper risk to reward with that distance. So you're better off either looking for the sells higher up within this region right here coming down, or if that doesn't happen, then we could actually literally wait and see if we could get the market breaking to the downside. At least if you do end up getting those sells on the pullback, based on how the buyers come up, this sell will give you lesser issues than attempting sells within these regions. Because the buyers, in fact, immediately you end up taking your sells, you're already going against buyers immediately. Because within this region, there are definitely buyers who could give you issues. So your selling opportunities could easily be dead on arrival. So you're better off waiting. So also remember to watch out for the region at the top. Also, you can find the market coming back in there. If it does, then at least you can also watch out for, for some selling opportunities within that area. So last but not least, we do have the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're watching out for buys, and you can see the three regions right there that I have pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We did want to see the market break to the upside and pull back in within here. It broke, went to the upside, came back in, broke to the downside, but at least you can't see that it did hold within here. At least if you did end up getting any buys within here, at least you'd have survived. And you can't see that the market is more or less fighting to come to the upside. So for this one, let's see what happens. Hopefully, if the London big boys do end up showing up, and I mean, we've already seen that based on the news events, we should be expecting strength to come in on the GBPs. So let's see if we can get that happening. But considering the fact that we're holding just beneath this region, don't really look for the buying opportunities right now. So just wait and see if you can actually get the market coming to the downside. At least buys within this area are not too bad. But right now, based on where the market is, don't really look for the buys within there. Wait until if you can get the market breaking above, or if those sellers react, then we can't wait for that region. And of course, the extreme region that we have is down within this region here. So hopefully you've taken note of that and everything else that we've discussed in terms of the currency pairs. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. Let's move on to the indices and the commodities. You can see that there's no change on those ones as well. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday, the bars was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you clearly can't see the three areas that I had pointed out right there. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. Remember, for as long as we're holding above here, the bars was to actually try and see whether we could have gotten buys. So yesterday morning price was here. So the market did breach this region to the upside. Unfortunately, we didn't get a proper pullback coming in within this area. You can't see that the market continued to go to the upside. Then there was an aggressive pullback that came in. This was during the US session. Back in within this region, you can't see that the bars have technically somehow slowed down within this region here. Let's see if we can get something clear. So for this one, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So right now we are more or less holding just beneath that region of resistance right there. So that tells you that it's not really the best of times to look for your buying opportunities. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in within here. There's a possibility it can. And at least if we do get the market back, within this buyer's region, maybe at around 430, we could possibly look for the buying opportunities to move to the upside. Alternatively, because you also don't want to be looking for your buying opportunities somewhere within this area here. Let's see if I can draw something much neater than that. So if we can possibly end up getting the market breaking to the downside, coming back in, giving us some sort of a retest here, the next proper buy could be here, because within this area, you could easily end up getting into a trade, but you could easily be taken for a ride within this region, only for you to actually end up getting stopped out. And the market actually comes to the downside. So just to save yourself from that agony, you're better off possibly waiting to see if you can get those opportunities within those areas. The reason why we have this red SNR here, for the guys who normally trade the NAS a lot, is because of this area. You can see that when the market broke to the upside, there's a possibility price could still come back in and retest this region. It never came back in. So you will possibly find that it might, because it has a tendency of doing that. You can see that even when the market broke above this region to the upside, you can see that in as much as the market went up, it came back in within this region more or less twice. So I guess if the market is in some sort of a trend, there's a possibility and a high probability price could be coming back in within that region. So just make sure that you also do actually watch out for that region right there. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the NAS. Remember, we're always fully technical on the indices and the commodities. So for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, then the bias is to look for buying opportunities. If it's below, then it should be sells. So the next one, this is the Dow Jones. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Can't see the three regions that I had pointed out right there. In the morning, price was somewhere within here. Wasn't a good time to look for the buys. We didn't know whether the sellers were going to react, and you can't see that they did react, and the market did technically come back in within this region. And you can't see that this was at exactly 430. That's when the market just tapped back in within this buyers region within here. And you can't see that off that area, the market launched to the upside quite aggressively. So for this one, for today, the bias is still to try and see whether we can get buying opportunities. Remember, for as long as we're holding above this red SNR, then the bias should be to look for buys. Right now, we're more or less holding within this region here. This one is also a bit tricky, considering the fact that, and I think I pointed this out yesterday, we are the highest we've ever been on the Dow Jones. So we're plotting the levels as we're moving. So right now, based on what we know, since we have never been here before, what we know is that the market has come in and it's more or less holding within this area. So this is the current top SNR that we have, or the resistance area. So it's either the market breaks to the upside of this region here, for us to possibly end up keeping up with the buys. But I would say that there's also high risk in that. Hopefully, if the market can actually react off that area and come back in within this area, at least for sure, we definitely know that we can definitely target this region here. If we break to the upside of this area, then you'll have to wait for the pullback, possibly end up trying to see whether you can get those buys. And of course, where you're heading, because it's definitely darkness. You can see that we don't have anything here in the past. We've never been there. So, well, we're just, going to be trading blind within this region. But at least if we can get the pullback, coming in within here, at least for sure we know there's that region right there. And of course, remember, there's also this region here where you could also find the market coming back until, especially if the market is in some sort of a trend, there's a possibility it could also end up bouncing off this region here. And you could find the pullback coming in within that region there. So also just make sure that you watch out for that. Remember, if you want to take counters on the indices and the commodities, it's okay, for as long as you have it at the back of your mind that you're taking a counter, then it should be good. But remember, don't take the counter and start cheering the market in that direction. You will definitely end up missing the whole plot, and you won't see when the buy does actually end up kicking in. So just make sure that you also have that at the back of your mind. So the next one, this is silver. So for silver yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sells, but silver was in a bit of a catch-22 situation. Remember, the level that I had yesterday was here. And I had pointed out that based on how the market had come in yesterday during the open, of course, the week, there was this, this gap that did happen here. And the way we look at it is that this is like a massive red candle that did come in. And of course, we did want to see what the buyers were going to do, but we did need to see the market hold beneath this region. So you can see that the sellers came down on the pullback. You can see that the market bounced off this area. This was at exactly around 430. And you can see that off that area, the market started to come to the downside. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all the way till within here yesterday, but you can see that today, it's more or less tapped within this region here. So for this one, we've just done some minor adjustments. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. The bias is still to look for the sells. But the reason why we've done these adjustments here is because if I go up to the 1 hour time frame, you can actually end up getting more context what's happening there. In fact, you can see that the true SNR seems like it's somewhere within here. We definitely have this region at the bottom right here. And there's also this region where right now the market has been holding. You can see that it's been in some sort of a range within this area here. But it's definitely an SNR that you could find the sells happening off from, coming down to within this region. Definitely, there are quite a number of regions within here where we do have buyers areas that you should be watching out for. But at least when the market starts to come in, within this area, just make sure that you definitely start to do some money management, because the market can easily also end up bouncing off this region to the upside, and you don't really want to end up getting caught up in that. So just make sure that you watch out for that. The game plan for this one is to look for sells. The buyers have reacted, which is okay. Let's see if we can get the market coming back to the downside and actually holding to the downside before we definitely look for those selling opportunities. If we do want to look for buys, if the market does hold within this region to the upside, after right now, based on what's happening, you technically could look for some buying opportunities, but don't be overly ambitious, targeting all the way up here. You could easily find that the market might even just turn off this area here. And you could find that these sellers who push the market to the downside might easily end up coming back into the market. So don't play the long game when it comes to the buys. Maybe just some short-term buys here and there. But remember that the main bias is to try to see whether we can get sells, especially considering the fact that we're holding beneath that red SNR. So the next one and the last one, which is gold. So for gold, yesterday, the bias was to try to see whether we could get buys. Similar situation today. Yesterday in the morning, price was here. I did point out that we did need to see the market come in within this region, and hopefully we did need to see some sort of a bounce, an attempt of the sellers to break the market or this region to the downside, which was going to be unsuccessful, and a hold before we look for the buys. That didn't happen. Remember, I talked about the best buys could definitely be somewhere within here. Unfortunately, the market came back in, just missed this region here, and you can't see that the market turned around, tapped that region, came back in, and right now it's back within this region here. So this one is not looking too bad in terms of buying opportunities. You can see that the buyers have definitely stepped back into the market, which is good. You consider how the sellers have come down here and the reaction that they've gotten. This is good. But remember that this is just the first reaction of the buyers. We definitely need to see a bit more. Because I mean, the market can still come to the downside. You can see that these sellers came down quite aggressively. And if the market holds within here, then you could find the market coming all the way down till here. You could find that the buyers could definitely happen off this region. So in as much as the buyers are showing up, don't be trigger happy. For this one, let's wait and see if we can get, I mean, even if the market comes up high within this region, it's okay. Because you can see that the previous time the sellers came in from within this area. So even if we do get the market tapping within there and we see that the next reaction of the seller, this move coming down is weaker than what happened previously, then maybe we could possibly try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities on this one to come up, to possibly challenge this region right here. So for this one, basically that's what the game plan should be. So hopefully you've taken note of that. But also remember, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bias should be to try see whether we can get those buying opportunities. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything we've discussed. And of course, there's the watch list right there for the guys who might have come in a bit late. So feel free to take note of that. So I guess we can end up looking at the Q&A section to see what guys are saying. So I see Ivy Wanyama there. Good to see you saying morning team. Thank you so much. Karibu sana, Ivy. Always good to see you here. I hope that you're gaining as much as possible. So good to see you here. I see Patricia Mangi there. You're saying, hi, John, kindly display NAS 100. Yeah, so for this one, basically, we're trying to see whether we can get some buys. So hopefully, you can take note of these three areas right here, and also an illustration of what to expect. So definitely waiting to see whether we can get the pullback coming in to look for the buys, or hopefully the market to break above here, as opposed to trying to squeeze yourself in this mess because there's some sort of an SNR within here. Proper buys here or somewhere within there. So I hope that sorts you out, Patricia. All right, so I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. But like I always point out, this information is also on YouTube. We're also live on YouTube and the recording does stay there. So in case anything is not clear, you definitely can end up hopping onto our YouTube channel, catching up on whatever you missed out. And of course, when you're there, also remember to give us a like and a subscribe, and also remember to share if you're getting as much. I mean, if you think it's valuable to you and can be valuable, the information can be valuable to other people, you also can share it. So I guess that's pretty much it. Guess we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the morning. Remember, if you get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Us guys will definitely be more than happy to see what you guys are up to on the charts. Our contact details are there. And also, if you do need more information in terms of trading, also feel free to reach out to us. We'll definitely be more than happy to help you. So with that, happy trading, guys, and bye for now. May the peace be with you. God bless.